The narrow alley was shrouded in darkness, the streetlights at either end casting feeble, flickering light. Mark shivered, pulling his coat tighter around him as he stepped cautiously forward, his footsteps echoing off the damp, graffiti-covered walls. He checked his watch. 11:45 p.m. 15 minutes to midnight. 15 minutes to the meeting. Mark had received the cryptic note just hours earlier, slipped under his door with no sign of who had delivered it. Midnight. Alley behind 5th and Main. Come alone. He knew he shouldn't have come, but curiosity and a strange sense of obligation had driven him out into the night. He stopped mid-stride, ear straining. Was that a whisper? The wind. His heart pounded as he scanned the shadows. Nothing. He continued walking, the end of the alley seemingly miles away. The closer he got, the more oppressive the darkness felt, like a heavy blanket wrapping tighter and tighter around him. A faint click echoed behind him. Mark froze, his breath catching in his throat. He spun around, his eyes searching for the source of the sound. A trash can lid. A stray cat. The silence that followed was suffocating. He turned back, picking up his pace. He needed to reach the end of the alley to see who, or what, was waiting. A figure stepped into the dim light ahead, shrouded in a long, dark coat, face obscured by a wide-brimmed hat. Mark's pulse quickened. He slowed his pace, approaching cautiously. "Who's there?" he called out, trying to keep his voice steady. The figure didn't move, didn't respond. Mark stopped a few feet away, the tension in the air almost palpable. "I got your note," he said, louder this time. "What do you want?" The figure raised a gloved hand, pointing to something on the ground between them. Mark looked down, squinting in the dim light. A small, leather-bound journal lay there, its cover worn and stained. He bent down slowly, eyes never leaving the shadowy figure. As he picked up the journal, the figure turned and disappeared into the darkness. Mark stood, the journal heavy in his hands. He opened it, flipping through pages filled with hastily scrawled notes, maps, and strange symbols. His heart raced as he realized what he was holding: evidence. Details of something unimaginable. A conspiracy. A hidden truth. A sudden noise made him snap the journal shut. Footsteps. Rapid, approaching footsteps. Mark turned and ran, the journal clutched to his chest. He could hear his pursuer closing in, the echo of their footsteps growing louder, more urgent. He burst out of the alley, onto the deserted street. A car screeched to a halt nearby, its headlights blinding him momentarily. The door swung open, and a voice called out, "Get in." Without thinking, Mark dove into the car, the door slamming shut behind him. The car sped off, tires screeching. Mark turned to the driver, a young woman with fierce determination in her eyes. "Who are you?" he asked, breathless. "No time for that now," she replied, her grip on the steering wheel tightening. "They know you have the journal. They'll stop at nothing to get it back." Mark's mind raced with questions, but he knew there was no time. He glanced out the rear window, catching sight of dark figures emerging from the alley, watching them speed away. He had no idea what he had stumbled into, but one thing was clear: his life had just taken a dangerous turn, and there was no going back.